Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Vegan Tour Guide Podcast with your host, Mike Knight, where we'll bring you great information about a vegan plant-based diet. It doesn't matter if you've been vegan for years, part-time vegan, or just gathering more information. This podcast is for you. Thanks again for joining, and let's get today's tour started.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Vegan Tour Guide Podcast. This is Mike Knight. Hope you're having a phenomenal day. So I want to ask you something. What do you do when you're going through your life and you've got what is, quote, the perfect scenario in many aspects? You've got, great job, great money, ability to do pretty much anything you want, yet you feel like something's missing. You feel like even though society, if you will, tells you you're at, the pinnacle, living, quote, the dream, yet you feel like something's missing. What do you do? Well, that is what the guest in this podcast, Curt Albright, a friend, what he experienced and what he had to look into. And so that is what his story is about, his journey to plant-based vegan, lifestyle. He's going to share how it all started. And that was where it was for him. Great job, great career, great money, great things. Yet something was missing in his life, and so Curt is going to tell that story. It's a great story. Know you're going to enjoy it. Thanks so much for tuning in, and without further ado, here is Curt.
All right, so welcome to the Vegan Tour Guide. Curt, thanks so much for dropping in with us.
Well, thank you, Mike, and thanks for having me on, and thank you for carrying the message. I really appreciate what you do.
Well, I love doing it. I appreciate what you do. For those people listening, you and I met you about a year ago, but that was in a throng of people. And so I'd say we kind of at the Humane League Gala about a year ago, but then we kind of reconnected and really kind of met and talked in more detail after this recent gala here where you and I are both in Charlotte, North Carolina. And so, then you just kind of started telling me your story, and it's definitely one I wanted to have on the show. So I appreciate you coming on.
Well, thanks for reaching out, and again, I appreciate you carrying the message. I mean, I think it's so important for each of us because we each have our own story and our own background that we can kind of uniquely, help people identify and come into this because it's just such an important message.
Well, thank you. Well, speaking of message, let's jump right into yours because you definitely have a unique message. I love it when you and I are talking about it.
Yeah, well, mine. From at least the people that I've met so far is a little bit different because I kind of come from the dark side. So, I grew up in the D.C. area and I moved to Charlotte in 91 to take a job with a regional investment banking firm. And, my goal at that time was really all about, money, having more stuff and, gaining power and whatever. And it was self-centered. And so was my lifestyle. And so just a quick timeline. I mean, from 91 to 2000, things kind of took off for me. And then I started having some health issues. In May of 2000, I won't go into details, but I had some issues in one particular day that just hit bottom. And I was diagnosed as a type 1 diabetic. It took about 6 years of not getting myself together to finally say that I had enough. And I started kind of what I would call a spiritual journey, just out there looking for something more in life than what I had. And I was really confused, because, I had the money thing and I had lots of stuff, but my insides weren't happy. And that was about as much self-awareness as I had at that time. And I really didn't understand what was going on. It got a little bit better, but not a whole lot until about the year 2011, when the kind of the aha moment for me was I had put on more weight and I went in to see a sleep doctor. And I'd already seen plenty of doctors over the years because of the diabetes complications and trying to get myself straightened away from that. Well, the first time I met the sleep doctor, we had this really deep conversation, and he told me two things. One was he wanted me to lose weight, And the other thing was that he wanted me to read a book written by another doctor that changed his life. Or he may have said saved his life. I'd never heard a doctor make a statement like that. And so I took it seriously, you know, and the book was Eat to Live by Dr. Joel Fuhrman. And so I read that book, and, you know, while I was reading that book, I was doing some other personal work on myself, on the spiritual side. You know, again, just looking for what am I missing? You know, I felt like in my inside that everybody else was happy and I was like struggling. I didn't know what was going on, why I wasn't feeling, you know, more of a deeper connection with life in general, because again, I had all this stuff. So that book did not use the term vegan or vegetarian in it. It was purely from a eating healthy perspective. And like we talked about the other day, I mean, you know, he had little stickers on the front of the book that said, you know, guaranteed to lose 20 pounds in 30 days or something like that. And I'm thinking, yeah, right. That's just marketing. Well, after I followed that book, I never in my life had I had weight come off of me like it did by eating healthy and following what that book said. And, so his claims, at least for me, were true. And, you know, I went through probably a 4-day detox from processed foods and all the junk that I was eating to beginning to eat healthy. And for me, what really helped was the other work I was doing, the spiritual work that I was doing, which was based on a guy named Andrew Harvey, who asked the statement as a way, as an identifier to really get into your passion. Ask yourself the question, what breaks my heart the greatest? And that work targeted for me animals, because my whole life I've been an animal person. But I can tell you growing up, I was more like an Alex B. Keaton growing up from Family Ties. You know, I read the business section as a kid. You know, I read the Wall Street Journal. I charted stocks. I mean, that was who I kind of made myself into. And so there really, you know, how I grew up playing sports and that it was a very testosteronic growing up. Their feelings and, you know, emotions weren't really welcome. And I knew I had this animal thing in me. It's just that I didn't want to show it. So when I did this work based on Andrew Harvey's work, it just kind of opened that up. And so, long story short, from this timeline, when I knew I needed to give back into that passion to feel deeply, and so I started to look for ways to give back to animals that suffer because it spoke so much to me. And so, with that coupled with Joel Fuhrman's book about eating healthy, Eat to Live, when I found veganism, it was like the gloves came off. That it was almost, you know, it was almost like that's what I've been waiting for all my life, because I was so kind of, you know, just disconnected and empty feeling inside that to connect the dots came quickly for me. So I went vegetarian in 2011. I went vegan in May of 2012, and have never looked back. And, you know, I did the things that I've heard some of your other interviewers do, you know, at the beginning, watched Earthlings. I read a lot of books, watched Forks Over Knives. One of the other big things for me to help me get on the right track in the vegan world was watching Phillip Wollen's video, which I believe, let me see if I've got it written down somewhere, Keeping Meat Off of the Table. Which came out in June of 2012. And Phillip Wollen is a philanthropist in Australia and ran Citibank Australia before he left. And,
wow, okay.
So he spoke like I spoke and what I recognize. And there's a 10-minute video that if your listeners want to Google Phillip Wollen speech, that's all you have to Google. It'll come up. And it's
I'll put that in the show notes. Oh, yeah. I'll make sure I'll put that in the show notes, the link to that. That's awesome.
I found that to be just a super powerful 10-minute video that when I saw that, I knew I needed to up the ante on myself, because there was so much more that I could do than what I had in mind. It was very inspirational for me.
Well, take it to, speaking of, you know, your transformation and doing a lot, you're not kidding when you said you wanted to get heavily involved. You jumped right in. I know, especially like here in town. Take people a little bit through that kind of, so it even gives people other ideas on how they can get involved, because you definitely have and are still making a big impact.
Well, part of that for me was just the kind of the guilt that I felt inside for not getting this earlier. I mean, the target audience of the movement is, females college age or younger. So, old guy coming into this thing isn't the norm. And so, part of the reason for that is I think that we just get so set in our ways. And, so I'm really glad that I felt that emptiness, because that's what really motivated me. And, being in the investment banker business world, I don't typically, if I'm in, I'm all in. And so that was the two things that were very motivational for me. Is one, I wasn't young when I figured this out. And two, I wanted to make a difference while I'm still, walking the face of the earth. So, kind of my mission is to, do as much as I can to have a positive effect for the animals that still suffer. And that comes from every angle, whether it's donating money. I got to make sure that my donations are effective. If I'm volunteering, is the work that I'm doing volunteering effective? And so that's sort of where I went to initially. So, what I did was I looked locally first, and I did some work with Carolina Waterfowl Rescue, and I ended up buying a property and donating it to them because they were struggling to stay afloat at the time. This was back in 2011. And we moved the rescue onto that. Well, while that was going on, one of the groups that I think super highly of still had just done an undercover investigation on a factory farm in Statesville, North Carolina, at a butterball factory, Mercy for Animals. And the person that I was working with at Carolina Waterfowl was getting called in to help on the backside of that investigation. And it was flat horrific.
Wow.
So I was hearing firsthand the reports about what that was all about, and it opened my eyes. And I saw somewhere that in our food system, just in the United States, that we torture and kill 9 billion animals plus every year. And so, being a numbers guy, I started researching that side of it, and that really helped me, again, with my mind always looking to how can I do more? How can I be more effective with my time while I've still got it? That's what kind of made me want to switch from rescue side, which I thought I was going to do, to getting involved with the dysfunctional food system.
Uh-huh.
And then, so what I did was, I remember it was my 50th birthday. I flew up to New York, and I met with Gene Bauer's group at Farm Sanctuary in Watkins Glen and Jenny Brown at Woodstock. And that really helped me, too, to just understand what was going on in the food system and in the rescue world. Came back here, and I started looking for seminars or conferences that I could attend. And somewhere along the line, I heard about the Animal Activist Handbook. The Animal Activist Handbook is a really short and super dynamic read written by Matt Ball and Bruce Friedrich. And so after I read that book, I connected with both of them. And it's really interesting because Matt ended up connecting me with the folks here in Charlotte that did the first VegFest in Charlotte, which I wanted to get involved with. And then Bruce Friedrich, I ended up flying up to Washington and meeting with him, and he set up some meetings with some very key people in the movement up there, which I believe saved me years trying to figure out effectiveness within, this huge size of suffering that goes on in our food system. So I learned a lot from these people. And the beauty of this, too, was that all of these people wanted to help. I mean, the doors were wide open. It was a very different feel from the dog-eat-dog business world. On the animal side, it was loving, welcoming, and how can we help you use your gifts to help animals that still suffer? So the doors were just flying open, and that was I'm just real grateful for that experience. And that helped me connect with a number of different groups. So, the Humane League was one of the groups that I met with when I was up there. I got involved with the grassroots movement in Charlotte, and we started with a meetup group. And I really did want to get involved with VegFest. I just saw that as a great way to build a foundation here to touch more people and raise awareness. And again, Matt connected me to them from Arizona. And then I got involved the second year. And, the first year there were hundreds of people that attended the event. This year we're hoping to have, somewhere between 5,000 and 6,000, which just warms my heart to see what's going on, in such a short period of time. And it's not just what we're doing here. It's because it's the truth. I mean, whether you're an environmentalist, you care about animal welfare, your own health, whatever brings you into the awareness, the more that people learn, the crazier it looks, the system that we currently have looks. So, I have a lot of hope right now just because of the people that I've met and attending I go to the Animal Rights Conference every year. It switches coasts each year. And that was a fantastic way to really get connected into what's going on, and to understand again how to be effective and plug into the system.
Yep. And it's, I'm finding it, you kind of like what you've been saying in your story. That's the one thing I do really enjoy about multiple things is that everyone is so open and wanting to help and, further a message and further information and wherever people want to plug in. Yep. I mean, it could be like you're saying, it could be something where people want to plug in on, the animal rights side and looking into, especially the caging that you and I have talked about and these horrific, farm conditions. Or it can be just, getting information out there, on the side of a vegan plant-based diet and promoting information on, hey, there really is a lot of protein. Don't worry,
Right.
Here's how you get your iron, putting it out there. And it's just been amazing to me how many people are open to helping out. And because like you said, I've been a serial entrepreneur, so I know what you mean when you talk about what the quote business world always brings, that everyone you feel is always trying to put you together, you know, and get over on you one way, shape, or another. And to just see this, it's been awesome. Yeah.
And the message that I was receiving was, I was kind of like, well, I'm an older guy coming in from the banking world. And so I was kind of putting that down. Well, the people that I was meeting with were like super excited because they'd never met somebody that came in from that standpoint. And that's sort of how I look at it when I'm meeting people out there. I mean, I want to meet people where they are. I mean, there's a Gallup poll that was taken a couple of years ago that said that 97% of all Americans are for laws to protect animals from cruelty. Okay, 97% of Americans don't agree on anything. I mean, if they agree that animal cruelty isn't good, then there's no argument. I mean, all I have to do is show them what's going on. So that's why I try to keep in mind that it's just important for me to understand what the issue is that the other person is concerned about, and then support them wherever they are on their journey to just get more information and move and just keep moving the ball forward. And it's wonderful now. I mean, there's so many new people that have come into this movement, and the momentum is on our side, but so are the gifts. I mean, each of us has our own journey. Each of us has the people that we know and our own experiences that we can bring to this, which will speak to a certain group of people and won't as much to another. But the more of us that are willing to open up and speak about it, the more we're going to draw, a cross-section of everybody into this movement.
Yep. And especially, like you said, just spreading out information, and even like you said, the films and videos. Yeah. I think you and I briefly described to you about a good buddy of mine I grew up with that he, of course, knew that, he knew about my podcast and blog and everything, and that I'd, gone to a vegan plant-based diet, and he was kind of gradually, if you will, phasing over. And then he stops by one night when I'm over visiting with a buddy, and he says, "All right, I'm all in." I was like, "What?" He goes, "Yeah, I'm vegan. I'm all in." I'm like, "Awesome. All right. What made I said, "I love it. Just curious, what was the big jump?" He goes, I was sitting there, and he goes, I started going through on Netflix and watching like some of the videos you talked about. He goes, I just never thought about it. He goes, I'm that guy. I love animals and all like that. He goes, it just never, it's one of those things. It's been out of sight, out of mind, as far as kind of what happens. He goes, I saw those movies. He goes, I'm done. He goes, I'm eating plant-based. And so a lot of times that is what it is. I mean, we've just, been conditioned to things, our entire lives. Why do we always do this? Well, so-and-so always did it. So-and-so always did it. And so, we kind of keep marching along, if you will, following uniform. And we find out when we just open up and watch these, there is more to it. Let me look into this.
Yep. Yeah. And I mean, and you think about the size of the corporations that are on the other side and how much time, energy, and effort is placed into packaging it a certain way so that it doesn't look like the original animal, or creating a new name like pork or beef instead of cow. I mean, we call it milk, not cow's milk. And so, that whole separation keeps us from realizing that, hey, this was a live animal before, and so that effort, I think, has gone on unchecked for a long period of time. And, like you said, these movies are there's just so many, the social media, just the regular media. I mean, there's just so many ways that it's starting to get out now, like Cowspiracy that came out a year or two ago. I mean, watching that and how they tried to tie in the environmental people. I mean, I've heard people speak about, like, if we bring in everyone who thinks of themselves as an environmentalist to realize that you really can't be an environmentalist if you still eat meat. If that switches, it's game over. I mean, so there's so many different, things that are putting out into the media right now that are attracting people in at their own pace. And it needs to happen. I mean, I personally believe that we're in a race here, and for me, primarily with the oceans, that if we don't change, there's going to be a tipping point on the other side. So, I try to focus less on that and more on just, meeting as many people as I can and trying to get this stuff out, because, if I get one person to go vegan, then boom, my effectiveness as being a vegan myself just doubled.
Oh, yeah. You're right. And that's what I love when I get feedback, from doing like the podcast, like, emails, or someone sending something like on Facebook or Twitter or something, and just, to hear people that make changes, even when they're gradual, just putting one foot in front of the other, phasing out. Because that's even how I tell people I did it, because a lot of times people think it's got to be all immediately. And I know you and I have spoken about it, even Maddie and even Christy and all like that, talking with them, and they were like, look, gradual is what it's all about, for some people. Not everyone can do, but at least it's a step in the right direction.
Yep. No, I think that's really important, because I think the black and white, all or none, although we all want it to be that way, it just isn't realistic.
Yes.
And I also, I've read statistics that talk about how many people reverse back. And so, that concerns me too, that I think that if you just support people and help them along the way and give them information and let them do it on their own pace, this stuff is so dynamic and important and awful that I think, when you start looking into it, it's pretty shocking. And I wanted to believe that this stuff happened 30 years ago, when I saw Gene Bauer's presentations that talk about, how many fewer family farms there are today than just there were 20, 30 years ago. They basically don't exist. I mean, it's a tiny, tiny percentage of the overall meat that's in the market comes from what it would be a family farm. They're factory farms.
Yep.
So it has not gotten better. The more efficient the meat industry is, the worse it is for the environment and for the animals.
Yep. And just, and the more people, again, see it, I think that's when they develop their whys.
Yep.
Because it's like, it's like you said on your journey. Once it started clicking with you and you found your why, you were all in.
Yep.
And I've got to really kind of give you credit, because I respect you being humble about some of the things you've done around here, but you have been a major influencer in the Charlotte community. And just, I want people listening to this to know that. I mean, the things you have done have been huge on creating awareness and, like you said, even that VegFest, getting that number up and all, which that's just more people that get touched.
Yeah.
And I think that way because when we get the information and knowledge out there, then, in my opinion, too, the more knowledge that goes out there, people can almost kind of pick a reason. Yeah. And I'm sure you and I are both like, look, that's the nice thing I tell people about going to a plant-based vegan is that irregardless of maybe what one reason you're going into it for, or at least initially, you just make one change and it's affecting all these things. Your health, other people's health, environment's health, animal health, compassion. That's the beautiful thing about it is how one thing you do has just like this immense, butterfly ripple effect.
Yep. And, I think, too, the tribe part of it, being in community is another really important part of this. I think that, people can just be willing to take that first step, whatever it is, whether it's going to a VegFest or a meeting or, one of the Humane League's vegan drink events, whatever it is that's in your local community. I think it was real surprising to me that it wasn't just the leaders of the movement. It's everybody else that's in it. Because, again, there's no ulterior motive to this other than doing good. And so when you're being authentic in that way, people see that, and it's attractive. And so, that whole community side of what we're doing too, the grassroots side of this thing, I think is super important. And I think most people don't have that in their lives because I was defensive as could be. And that was part of my issue was my world was getting smaller and smaller. And today it's the opposite. And thank you for your kind words. But again, I'm in this for the animals and so, it's not my comfort zone to speak publicly or to do things out in front of other people, but I got to get over myself because, I keep in the back of my mind the videos that I see of the chickens in the slaughterhouse and the pigs in the slaughterhouse or in the transport trucks in the middle of winter. It's horrific.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say too, along with the community, one of the things that was so key with that meeting with Bruce up in DC was connecting with the Humane League and to watch what they've done, since that meeting, it's just been amazing because they've opened up a number of new offices all over the country and now they're going international. They do a fantastic job with grassroots. I had gotten to the point where I couldn't handle anymore. I'm not a good detail person. And so when they put a deal on the table to open up an office here in Charlotte back at VegFest in 2013, I was like, absolutely. How do we do it? And again, the negotiations were, I loved it. Every time, they raised the bar on me, I raised it back on them and vice versa. Because the bigger we could make this thing, the more suffering we would be able to mitigate. Mm-hmm. And so it was amazing to me how pure it happened, how fast it happened. Andrea Gunn moved down here in September of 2013, never been to Charlotte before from Boston. There were dedicated people all over this thing. And we opened up the office here in Charlotte in September of 2013. And what's happened here in, 3.5 years is just amazing. So, in fact, we're heading tomorrow to the gala in Atlanta, and so we'll
nice.
get to see. Yeah, we'll get to see what's in fact, Bruce is speaking there. It's one of the reasons why I'm going is to connect with him, and and again, people. He's volunteering to come down to do that for them, and all these groups are working together because each one of them does certain things, off the charts good, and it allows each of them to not have to do everything. Uh-huh. And it's really, really exciting to see. And another thing, too, is just watching it evolve. And I can say now, from the finance perspective, which is my background, it's super exciting for me to see, the finance community starting to get involved with this, because of the successes of a company like Hampton Creek Food, which is just mayo and many other products. A lot of other companies are getting involved in the meatless meat industry, in the plant-based industry. This year was the first year that there is now an association which is in DC, trying to sway opinions on Capitol Hill called the Plant-Based Food Association. So, I mean, we're building a foundation in so many different ways, and we're seeing, because of the strength of the industry, finance paying attention to it and money coming in to help support what's going on.
Yeah.
And I think, too, there's risks that are involved in the meat industry, which has been written up a little bit. Health risks, again, the animal issues and cruelty issues, lawsuits, risk to human beings that work in these slaughterhouses that don't exist in the plant-based market.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. And like you and I talked about, what's neat, kind of echoing that is, and oh gosh, now it's escaping me. You remember the company? Was it Tyson?
Oh, Tyson Foods, yes.
Yeah.
That invested in Beyond Meat.
Yeah. And so it's unique, like you and I were talking, even seeing those big players realizing.
Yep.
Because to me, that's one of the things, and you had summed it up well in our when you and I were sitting down, because I was wondering, all right, do you think it's legit or what do you think? And I remember you saying, look, it's great because they follow the money as well.
Yep.
And so I'll take that. I mean, that's a good sign because it shows that this is growing.
We will get plant-based, options in front of more people in a super quicker way by the Tysons getting involved than trying to recreate the wheel and the distribution chains. So to me, as much as I don't want to support Tyson Foods in general, I'm looking, okay, how many animals will this save? And to me, by them buying an interest in a Beyond Meat allows Beyond Meat to get into places that they may not be able to get into in any other way. Mm-hmm. And in fact, yesterday or the day before, there was a Canadian group that bought, I forget the name of the company here, but Lifestyle. It was another plant-based company.
Oh, wow.
It was this week. So it's been happening. It'll continue to happen. And, thanks to groups like the Good Food Institute and New Crop Capital, there's now financing to help companies, the next Hampton Creek food happen and disrupt the food system. So there are many more coming into the market, and there are some that are going out. So now we're starting to see this whole liquidity cycle happen in the plant-based food market, which has never happened before.
And it's amazing when you think about it, the impact that's been made and what has happened so far through, let's just say, so much grassroots.
Yes.
Mercy. You put solid money behind that.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. I mean, that's amazing. You start thinking about then the exposure that can be created.
Yep, and the look at the VegFest all over the country. It's it's amazing to me because I'm in a couple of Facebook groups of organizers to see. I mean, they're just popping up everywhere, and we've gotten messages on our Facebook page, and helped out a couple of them, and they're all growing. And again, it's more than a trend. It's momentum. And people are doing the next right thing. They're organizing these things. They're getting involved. Every city, I mean, who would have thought of Charlotte? I mean, I remember when I was talking to people in the beginning about what I wanted to do here in Charlotte, they were like, well, why Charlotte? I'm like, well, A, I live there, but B, why wouldn't you? I mean, here everybody thinks of us as the South when you go up north and barbecue and all of that stuff, but it was all new here. I mean, there wasn't much going on, so of course we want to get that going here because again, if I believe everybody is wired to care, 97% anyway, we want to give them outlets. We want to give entrepreneurs outlets to start new companies. We want to give them festivals to bring their product to consumers, and we want consumers who want to vote with their dollars and spend in a healthier way options to do that. And that's what seems to be really coming together to me. Yeah.
Well, I can't wait for the VegFest. I'm excited about it.
Me too.
Well,
April 29th.
April 29th?
April 29th.
Tell me some more of your goals then. Kind of, for 2017. I know obviously you're putting a lot of, effort and energy like in a VegFest right now coming up, like we just talked about, and, and getting those numbers up, which is going to be awesome. What else kind of, just your big view for you would just be a great 2017?
I try not to outthink it because there's so many projects going on right now. What my main goal is to have enough space in my life to jump on something when it appears. And
Gotcha.
so I love connecting to people that are kicking ass. And so that's why I like to go to animal rights conferences and to stay connected with people so that if I can jump into something and help out, I want to be able to do it. The VegFest side of it, this year we're hoping to get, and again, it's a one-day event, we're hoping to bust through the 5,000 mark, and my goal is to get that over 10,000 people as quickly as we can.
Wow.
And I'm hoping now that we're at the Park Expo, we've got the facilities to grow with no problem. We'll be able to brand it better there. Hopefully we'll have maybe 20 to 30% more vendors this year than last year. I mean, it's grown every year. So that's super exciting. What I would love to see is more vegan restaurants, and other options open up around town, because to me, we have more demand than supply. The other side of that coin is to get involved with companies like I did this year with like Memphis Meats, and others that are truly trying to disrupt the food system, whether it's coming out with meatless meats or fish substitutes, whatever it is that uses the most animals in number and causes the most suffering. That's where I'm trying to focus on companies that are trying to fill that void and give an option where animals are taken out of the menu.
Gotcha.
So I'm staying connected with like that Plant-Based Food Association, watching what they're doing. Bruce over at the Good Food Institute and New Crop Capital, and you know, I was one of these guys that didn't want to go on Facebook because it was overwhelmed city to me. When I got over that and got into doing this work, I tell you, that's been a blessing, not only for me to be connected with other people that are doing amazing work, but to also use it to get the message out and to hopefully, I mean, look, we're way overspent and there's way more assets on the other side of this, on the meat side of it, than there is on the animal side and the environment side. So we've got to work harder and work smarter. And I think to me, social media is a great equalizer. So,
well, speaking of that, where can we tell everybody listening, kind of just whether, follow anywhere you want to direct them, and especially even where they can get information about VegFest?
Yeah. So, feel free to connect with me, and it's Curt Albright with one L. The VegFest, the main page is on Facebook that we keep active. So it's Charlotte VegFest on Facebook. The website is charlottevegfest.com.
Okay.
Together. And then we also have on this coming week, if you're in Charlotte, on March the 2nd, the VegFest Junior, which is the first time that we're doing that. And that event's going to be at the Goodyear Arts Center from 7 to 10 p.m. And we should have quite a few vendors there, and I would imagine we're going to have 300 to 500 people at that event.
Nice. Okay.
So, and then, also please connect if you're in Charlotte or in other cities that have a Humane League office. Please consider connecting with them, especially it's very easy to find on Facebook or on Twitter. I don't tweet anymore because it was just too much to try to keep up with everything at the same time. So we really put ourselves into event pages. And, here in Charlotte, we have a monthly vegan green drinks, which is on the third Thursday of the month, and various other events. So if you just sign up there or hit the sign up button on the VegFest page, you'll get connected and hopefully get in with the good work that we're doing in your local community.
Awesome. Well, man, Curt, I appreciate it.
Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, I love, man. I told you the other day, man, love your passion. I just love surrounding myself in life. I think, with people that are positive and with passion for something, and you obviously have
me
that.
Too.
And I know the people listening, they'll hear that in your voice. And definitely, I'll put everything in the show notes so people know where to kind of go find you and find out about Charlotte VegFest. And those that don't live around here, find a VegFest near you. There's a lot of them out there. So find a VegFest near you to go check it out.
And if there's anyone again, coming from the finance side of it or the banking side of it that wants to talk, I'm always looking to connect with people that are coming into the movement. So
nice.
Please feel free to connect with me.
All right. Hey, well, thank you so much, Curt.
All right. Well, thank you, Mike. I appreciate it very much.
Yeah, buddy. Thanks.
You bet.
Bye.
Wow. Curt, thank you so much. Thank you for coming on and sharing your story. It's unique how even you were talking about in your story, it's like life is. Sometimes we never know where maybe that spur of change, that tipping point in our life is going to come from. And it's cool how for you, of all things, it came from a sleep doctor. I mean, definitely, like you said, the last thing you thought walking to that appointment with that sleep doctor that day was that he was going to be the one to be the driving force to change in your life and also helping you realize what it was that was missing. As you said, I mean, you had, money, power, and greed, as you said. And, you came from that, world, if you will, and you had everything at your disposal. Yet you knew something was missing. And, him being there, kind of that aha moment, and suggesting the book Eat to Live by Dr. Joel Fuhrman. What a cool way, life opened that up to you. And, I got to tell you, I really like how you summed it up when you said, your world was actually getting smaller and smaller. Even with all those things in your life, your world was getting smaller and smaller. But when you made these changes, now you said your world is the opposite. It just keeps getting bigger and bigger because you're finding more ways that are outside of yourself to help. And I think it's neat, like you said, you love connecting. You love connecting with people that are just making a difference. And I love the same. That's, again, why I love doing this show, is to connect with people like Curt that are making positive change, that'll come on. You can hear their story, hear their journey, find how you relate, find motivation in it. Because that's what it's about. Like he and I discussed, it's one step at a time. A lot of, you listen to this podcast, you may already be a full, plant-based vegan lifestyle, and that's awesome. There's some others of you that are, kind of somewhere in the middle, making transition changes one step at a time. And that is awesome as well, like you heard us discuss. And I fully believe that. Again, it's just about making those steps. For some of us, one step at a time. Some of us, hop. Some of us jump. Some of us walk, run, sprint. Doesn't matter. We're all heading in the same direction. So that is what is awesome. So thanks so much to everybody for tuning in. I'll have everything in the show notes. Again, Curt brought some great information. That Phillip Wollen video, Animals Should Be Off the Menu, is a phenomenal watch on YouTube. Like he said, it's only about 10 minutes. I'm telling you, you've got to watch that. I'm going to put that. There'll actually be a blog post, and I'm actually going to put that video right inside the blog post, so you'll be able to watch it right in there if you want. But, let's all just keep moving forward. And, again, reach out as always. Please help me spread the word. That's what I'm doing this for. That's what I want to do. So please send people to the website, vegantourguide.com. They can find the podcast player there with, Curt's episode you just listened to, plus the past episodes. Find those there. Vegan Tour Guide is the moniker for everything, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. So please join us there. Subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher, whatever you use. Please subscribe to the podcast and help us all together put this message out there. Put the message out there and make a difference and show others that it is easy. It is easy to go to, plant-based, vegan, diet, as some people call it, but then it turns into a lifestyle. As you heard with Curt, it turned into a lifestyle. It started out, with him looking for healthier options and all like that, and then it grew now into what is his passion and lifestyle. So that is awesome. Thanks so much for everybody tuning in. Look forward to hearing from you. vegantourguide@gmail.com. Send them on over. Let's hear it. I want to hear your recommendations, your feedback. And as always, I'd like to give a shout out to Pat Flynn for his information and inspiration on putting together the podcast, and to bensound.com for the use of this music. Until next time, everybody, live Pure Vita.